This is my studio, and this is what I've been up to lately. Back in January, Airbnb invited me to be part of their local expert workshops, and I figured a zine workshop would make the most sense. I wanted to make it a little bit more special by turning it into a collage project where guests can layer 2 colors and create their final zine. And if they have specific images they'd like to use, they can send them to me ahead of time. So it's like a souvenir that they can take home to commemorate their trip. So for the workshop, they also asked me to make a little map of my neighborhood. So basically people, after they come to the workshop, they can go on a self-guided tour. And it was really fun thinking of my favorite places in the neighborhood, specifically places that I think people who are visiting would like. But I started out by making a little template on my computer, just on Adobe Illustrator, and putting all of the landmarks and trying to figure out where I wanted to include a couple little illustrations. And then I made a little version with a blurb and some sketches, and I turned those into some more realized sketches, and I also decided to make the little illustration areas bigger. So what I'm going to do now is, for the zine workshop, I also want people to be able to make a zine even if they don't have their own photos. So I found a bunch of common licensed images and resources and stuff, but also I want to capture some stuff from around the neighborhood. So I'm going to go ahead and take my portable scanner, which is right here. This is the first day I'm using it, so it's a bit of trial and error, but I'm going to go around and just scan some signs and stuff, and hopefully that'll be fun for people to collage or play around with. It was a little tricky at times and a little bit cold, but the final result looked like this. I compiled all the resources into a couple of binders, all in grayscale, so guests can flip through them for inspiration and cut them out as they wish. And the only thing left that I have to do is finish up the illustrations. So I've been sketching mini versions on a test print to get a better sense of scale. And I like taking my illustrations to paper like this at first because I feel like using more traditional mediums to draw with and ideate just makes the process a lot more interesting than working just on the computer. Here's a little update on the Linocut stuff. So I think in the last video I mentioned that this was something I'm trying out this year, and admittedly I had very high aspirations and a lot of project ideas, but I think I've come to accept that I'm gonna be a clumsy beginner at this, and that's okay. But nonetheless, I'm still gonna try to execute this 3-layer print. So it's looking a little dusty now because this is my linoleum. I printed out a stencil basically to attach to the linoleum, and I used just some cheap acrylic medium. I don't know if using a nicer acrylic medium would really make a difference, because essentially you're just gluing an inkjet print to the linoleum, waiting 12 hours. And then you use water and a sponge, or in the blog I found online where they did this, they kind of just used a paper towel, but when I was trying to do it, the paper towel was dissolving. And I also found that if you press too hard, you can kind of see in this, in this area here that the ink started to peel away if you rub too hard. So I actually found it a lot harder than they made it look in the tutorial. I'm sure there's other ways to transfer your image onto a linoleum block that is less messy and more straightforward than this. I mean, it's the first try, so I'm okay with experimenting. That's what I did. And basically, I have 3 little blocks here. But I heard that if you warm up the linoleum, it's easier to carve. And it's very cold in Seoul right now, so I think I do need this hair dryer. So I'm going to be hair drying my linoleum so it's a little easier to carve. And I have these power grip tools. I heard this is like a pretty good brand. This is a Japanese brand. And this is just like a little set. I think this was like $50 or so. I also got one extra one because when I started carving this first one, I was getting annoyed at like how long it was taking to carve out all of the negative space. So I did get one, but it's not that much bigger. Like when I compare the two, wish me luck. If you have any carving tips, please leave them down below because I'm a total newbie. Whenever I start feeling stressed about learning something new, I like to turn to something that's just pure fun. And for me, that's been getting more into stationery and reading again. I was actually a lit major in college, but I recently started a book journal to track everything I've been reading this year, and it's kind of the first time I've properly gotten back into it since my university days. Actually, it kind of started when a friend asked me why I had liked a certain book, which was one I had read 10 years ago, but still, I realized I wanted a way to record my thoughts more intentionally and be able to remember my opinions and my thoughts about what I had read even years later. So I started this little diary from a local Korean brand called Mushroom Paper Farm with a very, very cute studio and shop here in Hongdae. And since I read mostly on my Kindle these days, it's also been a nice way to just jot down my ideas, especially since I'm not like writing in physical books like I used to. It's also been a great excuse to buy some cute stickers, and I've been using them to mark and denote the different books I've read, with stars for ratings, of course, and these really nice ones are from Hand in Glove. Hopefully, I'll stick to my goal of reading 50 books this year, and maybe I'll even illustrate some of my favorite reads at the end of the year. Instead of a regular goal list, I made a bingo board for myself. It's fun because I get to check off different goals without needing to complete all of them, and the squares range from small, silly things to bigger projects. So I designed and printed all 25 of them myself. Now the board sits behind my desk, and it acts as a gentle nudge toward the things I'd love to do this year. And I kind of just see it more as an inspiration board rather than a really rigid to-do list, which does make it feel a lot more motivating and chill. So it was kind of a good reminder that breaking any task into small steps just makes it more manageable and, for me, more fun. And I think that's something I need to remind myself of more often this year. Learning new skills can be frustrating, but when I let go of like the expectations and the product and focus more on enjoying the process, it definitely feels a little lighter. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. To keep up with me when I'm not posting videos, you can check out my Patreon here, where I post little updates, mini videos from the studio, and where I post behind the scenes of all my sketches and illustrations.